Inside the Magic, show number 444 for October 7th, 2013. It is Monday, October 7th, 2013. This is show 444 of Inside the Magic, and as always, I'm your host, Ricky Briganti, with another great show, packed with Disney and theme park news and plenty of fun. And before we get into all of that, I invite you to visit our website over at InsideTheMagic.net, where you can find all of our podcasts, videos, photos, news, articles, all that good stuff. And if you ever have anything you want to submit, you can send it to me at Ricky@InsideTheMagic.net, or call and leave a message at 407-494-4ITM. That's 4486. And now, let's get on with the show.
It's Halloween, everybody. Let out a scream. It's Halloween. It's Halloween, everybody. It's Halloween. It's scream, it's Halloween.
This week's episode of Inside the Magic is brought to you by Magical Travel. Let Adventures by Disney be your guide, your storyteller, your local expert, and your masters of hassle-free guided travel. When you travel the world, receive a free Visa gift card when you book an Adventures by Disney vacation with Magical Travel. To do all of that, you're going to want to call Magical Travel at 866-207-8387 or visit them online at magicaltravel.com to receive a free price quote. And be sure to mention Inside the Magic when you call them up or you contact them to get that free Disney gift card for qualifying bookings when you book your Disney vacation with Magical Travel. And of course, thanks very much to all contributors to Inside the Magic, clicking through any of the affiliate links over on InsideTheMagic.net or contributing with a donation, one-time, recurring, whatever. It all helps support what I do. So thanks very much for all of it. And now let's get started with a trip around the world. So another Monday show this week. It's been crazy busy lately. Certainly the Halloween season has gotten a hold of me very much. Been visiting Halloween Horror Nights over at Universal quite a bit, and that is why I just didn't have any time yesterday to record a show, and now late on a Monday because, real life sneaks in every once in a while as well. So anyway, here we are, time to share the news of the week, and certainly plenty of exciting things going on. In fact, whenever I seem to find myself on doing a Monday show instead of a Sunday show, it always seems to be rather beneficial because some, pretty good, interesting, big news tends to happen on that Monday. So we begin today with a first look at the characters of Frozen, not the animated version, but rather the face characters that are coming to Walt Disney World and Disneyland. Disney revealed a time frame in which these characters will be showing up in the parks, California and in Florida, to meet and greet. They are going to be begin their meet and greets in November. A specific date hasn't been given, although the film comes out on November 27th, so within the same month as the film. Out here in Orlando at Walt Disney World, Anna and Elsa from Frozen will be meeting at the Norway Pavilion at Epcot, along with a gallery of Norwegian culture that helped inspire the film. Meanwhile, out at Disneyland, a special snowy meet and greet is being put together in Fantasyland. So that's where you're going to be able to meet Anna and Elsa when they show up next month. Now, here's an update to a story I was talking about, I believe, on last week's show. It's something that's been going on for quite a while, though now it is completely official. The changes to Disney's disability access policies that are coming to Walt Disney World and Disneyland are most definitely happening this week, beginning October 9th. And it is a done deal because Disney, this week, finally, after months of speculation and the last few weeks of a lot of headlines, many misleading headlines at that, making its way around as to how these new disability access procedures will be taking place, Disney has finally responded officially on the record, issued a statement. In fact, there was even a response directly from Meg Crofton, who's the president of Walt Disney Parks and Resorts Operations, United States and France, to summarize what the changes are in a nutshell. Basically, the old guest assistance card, the GAC, as many refer to it, is going away. You're not going to be able to get a guest assistance card anymore. It was subject to repeated abuse over the years, particularly in recent years. The new procedure will be to get a Disability Access Service card, or they're calling it a DAS card, and that's not going to let you jump the lines anymore if you are in need of one of these cards because of whatever disability you may have. Instead, it will offer you a chance to essentially wait the same amount of time, whatever the wait time is currently, but elsewhere. You don't actually have to stand in the line physically. You can get, a time. If the wide is a 45-minute wait, you go up to the cast member. They say, "Here's your ticket to come back in 45 minutes." You go do whatever you want for that 45 minutes, and then you get right on the ride at that. So Meg Crofton's response, which was a fairly long letter, included the following, quote, "Our current program for providing access to attractions for guests with disabilities has been abused and exploited to such an extent that we are no longer able to effectively sustain it in its present form. After careful consideration and with the needs of our guests with disabilities as our foremost concern, we are modifying the current program so that we will be able to continue to serve those guests for whom the program is intended," end quote. So clearly, it's interesting. Disney is actually acknowledging the abuse and the exploitation of the previous program in citing that as the reason for making the changes. Now, there are going to be cases where Disney has said, special cases where if you talk to guest relations, you might be able to work out another sort of bit of access if the system does not work for you and your particular disability. So it's kind of a case-by-case basis there, but that's going to be limited. For the most part, this new system will be in place. Disney also released an FAQ kind of detailing all the specifics of how you get one, how long it's valid, who's it good for, etc., etc. You can head to InsideTheMagic.net to get all the details straight from Disney. Speaking of another policy change, out here at Walt Disney World, a few months ago, some of the restaurants, some of the more expensive restaurants around Walt Disney World, table service restaurants, began instituting a fee for no-shows. Basically, you had to put a credit card down up front, and if you showed up for your reservation, of course, it wasn't charged. But if you didn't show up and you didn't cancel your reservation, there would be a $10 per person penalty. That is now extending to all table service dining at Walt Disney World. Every table service dining restaurant where you can make a reservation, you're going to have to give them a credit card, and if you don't cancel at least one day in advance, you will be charged $10 per person. That is going into effect on October 31st, and it's really aimed to cut down on the number of people making way too many reservations, booking at 10 different restaurants for one night, because they, being like, hey, I don't know what I want to eat that night, I'm just going to make a reservation for everything. Well, that doesn't work so well for everybody else, because then all the reservations get taken up. So that is the response to that, and so just beware, don't abuse the reservation system. You're going to have to go with whatever you pick. Also out here at Walt Disney World, an official grand opening date has been announced for Disney Vacation Club's 12th property. It is the Villas at Disney's Grand Floridian Resort and Spa, and it's just a couple of weeks away from opening. October 23rd is the official opening date for that. Now, recently, within the last few months, Disney has been releasing quite a few rather amusing new Mickey Mouse shorts online. A few of them have aired on TV as well. The latest is one that is perfect for this season, a little bit of Halloween time fun. It's a Mickey Mouse short called Ghoul Friend, and it stars, of course, Mickey Mouse and a very zombie-like Goofy. Some very conservative people are thinking, "Oh, this is too graphic. This is too whatever." I don't think it's too anything other than maybe too funny. It is. I really enjoyed it. So I would definitely recommend go ahead and checking out this new Mickey Mouse short, Ghoul Friend. Of course, you can watch it over on our website. Let's move to the world of video games now with the latest on Disney Infinity. The latest figure to hit store shelves is none other than the Pumpkin King himself, Jack Skellington from The Nightmare Before Christmas. He's a standalone figure, so there's no playset, unfortunately, involved with this figure. However, every figure that comes out for Disney Infinity has their own sort of little mini adventure. So at least with Jack Skellington, you can kind of enter in a little kind of sort of version of Halloween Town with Nightmare Before Christmas music playing, and while you're doing that, you can just sort of battle waves of enemies off as you go through. Not a particularly exciting adventure, certainly not anywhere near as interesting as the full play sets that are available for most characters, for at least a lot of the other characters, but it's, good to have Jack in the game nonetheless. Right now, he's exclusive to GameStop for a few weeks, and then he'll be available everywhere else. Now, I mentioned earlier, this is a Monday show, and it's good to wait to Monday sometimes for some big news, and today I was given an exclusive first look at a very exciting project, not only from Disney, but from Marvel as well. They were finally ready to pull back the curtains on that weird teaser. If you remember from the D23 Expo a couple of months ago, they were teasing that something weird was coming, and there was much speculation, and it turns out I hit the nail right on the head. It is indeed a comic book series based on the Museum of the Weird, but it's not going to be called the Museum of the Weird. Instead, it's called Seekers of the Weird. It's its own 5-issue sort of mini series of comics, but that is just a portion of the news that came out today. The real big news is that this is the first comic in a line called Disney Kingdoms. This is a new banner from Marvel and Disney, in which Walt Disney Imagineering is working closely with Marvel to develop new comic book series based on lands and attractions and characters and worlds of Walt Disney parks and resorts. Now, nobody would comment quite yet as to which attractions and such will be coming down the line after Museum of the Weird, but they said we will find out soon enough about all of that. Now, this Seekers of the Weird comic is going to debut in January next year, 2014, and it's going to be an adventure, of course, inspired by Rolly Crump's concept, and famed Imagineer Rolly Crump from years ago, sort of in the development alongside the Haunted Mansion. There was this Museum of the Weird walkthrough concept with all these curiosities, and that never got built, but now it's sort of becoming comic form with a new story wrapped around it, with some teenagers whose parents are kidnapped, and then they're joining forces with their swashbuckling uncle as they try to save the world from an evil secret society, discovering all kinds of weird things along the way. More information about this comic is going to be revealed at New York Comic Con this coming weekend on Saturday during the Cup of Joe panel with Joe Quesada of Marvel. That's going to be taking place at 4 p.m. in Room 1E for those of you who are going to New York Comic Con. And as I said, more of this Disney Kingdoms line of comics coming up in the future. Definitely head on over to InsideTheMagic.net to read more details about this comic. Very exciting. I'm really looking forward to it. Speaking of Marvel, here's a little bit more news for you young girls out there who are interested in sort of the science side of things, maybe math, maybe the whole STEM thing. Marvel Studios, along with Dolby Laboratories and the National Academy of Science and Girl Scouts USA and the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood, are putting on Marvel's Thor, The Dark World Ultimate Mentor Adventure. This is for girls 14 years and up in grades 9 through 12 nationwide, in which girls will be able to sort of be mentored, as the name would suggest, by other females in the world of science and mathematics and all of that. So it's a pretty exciting offering to bring more females into that side of the world. So UltimateMentorAdventure.com is where you're going to head to find out more information on that. And circling back around to video games now for one more bit of news here, this time not from Marvel, but from rather Disney and LucasArts, which they have announced a new game called Tiny Death Star. You might recognize the Tiny name. It's in conjunction with Tiny Tower creators Nimblebit, and it's a similar game as that for Disney Mobile, or from Disney Mobile, rather. And in this Tiny Death Star game, you'll be able to run intergalactic businesses, build an all-new Death Star, and of course see plenty of familiar Star Wars characters in a 8-bit style game. No further details have been released quite yet. That will be available soon, as they have said. And that'll do it for your news from around the world this week. Now we're going to get into talking about Mickey's Not-So-Scary Halloween Party here in just a minute. So along those lines, I thought I would offer up my own tip, having been to the Not-So-Scary Party just a few days ago. Now, Jack and Sally, Jack Skellington, Sally from The Nightmare Before Christmas, are meeting and greeting at Mickey's Not-So-Scary Halloween Party for the first time this year. Very exciting. And I wanted to offer just sort of a tip for my own observances on the best way to, well, not only to meet them, but to not meet them. When you first get to Not-So-Scary, Jack and Sally are right there on the left side of town square, and everybody's making a beeline over there. The line is very long. I would say an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. You don't want to wait in that line by any means. That's just no fun. You might want to go over there and meet them during one of the two parades, or wait till the very end of the night. When I was there, they actually did not cut off the line right at midnight when the event was ending. They still allowed people to get in line for Jack and Sally because they were popular throughout the evening. And at that point, they were saying that the wait time was maybe only around half an hour. And in the grand scheme of things, to meet Jack and Sally in half an hour, not a bad thing, especially with the amount of interaction that they are giving to everybody, and lots of entertainment as well. Jack is going around and scaring people and really hamming it up. It's a whole lot of fun. So one of those things you don't want to miss. And if you don't want to wait for that, at least stand off to the side and see them. It is fun. But my tip specifically is don't wait in the 2-hour line. Just come back later during, if you don't want to see the fireworks, maybe for some reason, you can go see it then. That would be a great time. But really, end of the night, surprisingly, everybody's kind of tired and they want to head out. Slip into that line literally as the event is ending, and you will have a chance to see them. Everybody else, email your tips into tips@insidethemagic.net. Now, before we get into talking more about Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, I want to put in a quick few words about capturing magic, the iPhone apps that are the ultimate tool for documenting and recording the magic of your Disney vacation, whether it's at Disneyland or Walt Disney World or Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party for that matter. Capturing Magic offers a helpful list of photo opportunities and memories to capture before, during, and after your trip. It is the perfect way to ensure that you don't miss any of those magical moments, because while you're in the parks, the app's actually going to remind you of those photo opportunities that you had selected from a list. When you're near those locations, it's going to say, hey, you're near the wishing well over by Sleeping Beauty Castle. You wanted to take a picture here. And then when you do, you can mark it off, say, hey, I took it with this camera and this person was in it, and then you can easily find, export, and organize all those pictures later. The Capturing Magic iPhone apps are available now in the iTunes App Store. So after weeks of spending some time over at Universal Orlando for Halloween Horror Nights, Busch Gardens for Hallowscream, it is indeed finally time to talk about Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party at the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World. Now, of course, Disneyland has their own version of Halloween festivities called Mickey's Halloween Party. This is not to be confused with that. The Not So Scary Party has been around even longer. This is a hard-ticketed event that happens on select nights throughout September and October. And, it's kind of the same thing year after year. They make tweaks, they make changes. Of course, I was mentioning Jack and Sally a minute ago. I'll talk a little bit more about that here. But, for the most part, Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party kind of feels the same year after year. Don't get me wrong, it's always fun. It's always an enjoyable experience. You get to go around, see lots of Mickey pumpkin-shaped heads lining the lampposts, which is nice. And, of course, with the addition of Jack and Sally, there's a little more Nightmare Before Christmas working its way into the event this year. You can see a lot of Jack Skellington balloons around. But, for the most part, Not So Scary kind of feels the same year after year. Same feeling, same music, same lighting. So if you are a fan of the event, you can certainly know what to expect year after year. Now, I want to kind of focus on my observations, things that I noticed that perhaps were new, different, interesting, etc. this time around. And starting when you first get into the party, of course, you're surrounded by spooky music. You hear the Haunted Mansion tunes playing over, up and down Main Street. There's all this creepy lighting. But you can immediately make a stop over at the fire station to pick up this year's exclusive Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom card. Whether or not you are playing Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom, the interactive game in the park, you definitely don't want to miss the opportunity to pick up the Hitchhiking Ghosts card for this year. It is a fun little collectible. If you do play with it, it's even better because they have all these cool animations that are with the Hitchhiking Ghosts. But if you don't, it is a nice collectible to have. Now, of course, when you're walking around the parks, when it's not time for a parade, not time for fireworks, not time for any kind of show, you will find plenty of characters out and about. This year, among the rarer characters that you'll find, Tarzan was out along with his group over in Adventureland. If you time it just right, also in Adventureland, I actually managed to see a few people take photos with 4 Aladdin characters at once. It was actually during a sort of a change in the shift there where it was supposed to be 2 characters and then 2 more, but as they sort of came together and then parted, they did snap a few photos with guests. So it was Genie, Abu, Aladdin, and Jasmine all together in one photo. Now that's certainly a rarity there. Working your way over to, the Haunted Mansion. Of course, you can't go through Mickey's Not-So-Scary Halloween Party and not visit the Haunted Mansion. It's just a must. I mean, really, you can't really go to the Magic Kingdom at all and not go to the Haunted Mansion, in my opinion. It's pretty much a must-do. But it's extra spooky during the Not-So-Scary, of course. It is fun to visit that attraction, see the extra special lighting and the fog outside, and then as you get inside, you'll also see the butlers and the maids are all done up really creepy with their special makeup and cobwebs all over them, and it is the best time of the year to be riding the Haunted Mansion. Now, this is sort of interesting. There's no actual changes to the attraction itself other than sort of the outside, but nearby, of course, there's the new Rapunzel area, Tangled area, the bathrooms and rest area and charging stations and all that, and of course Rapunzel's Tower is there. But what's very interesting about Rapunzel's Tower during Mickey's Not-So-Scary Halloween Party is it looks really spooky. It is this tower illuminated in pink and purple, but the fog that is pumped in around or rolling in around the Haunted Mansion is seemingly coming from right around where Rapunzel's Tower is. So you get this nice creepy look at the Tangled Tower that is normally not part of that experience. So, another one of those fun little moments you can stumble across. Now, here's another interesting thing that I came across over in Fantasyland. This year, the Seven Dwarves once again are all meeting together. Which is, one of those things you can only get during these parties. Another great photo opportunity. Very odd, though, was, they're stationed this year in front of one of the new Fantasyland castle walls, which is a nice backdrop. They have moved around over the years into some good places, some not so great places, but this time they have this great castle backdrop, which is nice. But it was odd. I was, trying to take a picture of the dwarves, and of course, there are people, very long line as the dwarves are all there, and of course, everybody wants that photo, and the photo pass cast members were telling everybody you couldn't take any pictures of the dwarves with other people in them unless you were with that party. Just no, you absolutely couldn't. It didn't really matter of any of the other characters anywhere else in the park. I've honestly never heard this before, but they were being really adamant about not taking pictures with other people. And I had walked up and I already snapped a few, including, one woman actually dressed up as Snow White, which was amusing. And then after I'd taken a couple, they were like, no, you're not supposed to do that. I was like, okay, I don't know. Didn't really get an explanation for that. It seems like anytime anyone steps into the theme parks, you're at that point basically saying, yeah, I understand my photo's going to be taken. It's one of the most photographed places on the planet. You're inevitably going to walk into somebody else's photo at some point. So I don't know what was so special about the Seven Dwarves this year. I've never had this problem in the past, but for some reason that was just going on. I don't know if it was just that particular set of cast members or if that's a new rule with the dwarves or what. Just kind of an interesting observation there. Nearby, though, there are some new treats going around Mickey's Not-So-Scary Halloween Party this year, including candy corn soft serve ice cream with a candy corn surprise. It's similar to a Dole Whip, but with a very, very different flavor. Instead of vanilla and pineapple, it's vanilla and candy corn flavor, which is it was actually pretty tasty. Very sweet, of course, as you might imagine candy corn ice cream being, but definitely enjoyable. I did not down it myself. It was actually my wife Michelle's, but I did take a couple of samples, and I'm not a big sweets person myself, but she definitely devoured it and enjoyed it quite a bit. There are other treats around the park as well, some kind of waffle sundae and other goodies that were new this year. So, it's always good to see a few new things. But then again, there are the returning classics year after year. You've got the Happy Hallow Wishes fireworks, which is always enjoyable. It's a little crazy, and the renditions of some of the songs are a little off the wall, kind of Disney Channel renditions of Grim Grinning Ghosts and Poor Unfortunate Souls and that kind of thing. But it's a great fireworks show. I always enjoy it. I actually prefer the the Happy Hallow Scream, whatever it's called, not Hallow Scream. That's Busch Gardens thing. Yeah, the version of this fireworks show out at Disneyland. Too many Halloween puns get confused in my brain, but the version of this show out at Disneyland I like a little bit better. There's more Nightmare Before Christmas involved in that, but the Hallow Wishes show here is still quite enjoyable, particularly because they use the perimeter fireworks during sort of the last portions of the show, and to see it kind of light up the sky all the way around you is always a great view. Now, back in the world of characters, over in Tomorrowland, it was taken over this year by Monsters, Inc. There's a Monsters dance party there with, of course, Mike and Sully are present, and they are dancing the night away. Lots of crowds gathering around, really enjoying seeing them break it down and have some fun over there. I'm not big on the dance parties. I mean, it seems like every Disney event seems to have a dance party nowadays, and, you know, if you got a lot of energy to burn, especially from doing all the trick-or-treating and eating all the candy throughout the park, you might have that, especially little kids. I'm just, you know, personally not a dance party kind of person. I wish they would come up with something a little bit more inventive to do with these characters, but, you know, throw them in a dance party. A lot of people seem to enjoy that all the time. Now, of course, the music you've been hearing in the background is for the Boo to You parade, which is, you know, it's a great parade. It's essentially the same thing once again this year. The Headless Horseman starts it all off, which I love seeing. In fact, that's arguably my favorite part of the whole parade, is seeing the Headless Horseman ride through the streets of the Magic Kingdom before the parade begins. And then, of course, the parade itself, it is entertaining. You know, there's a great Haunted Mansion unit in the middle of the parade with the butlers scraping their shovels on the ground. You see the ballroom dancers, you see the hitchhiking ghosts, and it is a wonderful moment. But, you know, after you've seen it a bazillion times, it makes you want to, you know, a few updates. And they're first-timers, second-timers. It is a wonderful thing, and I can understand why Disney does not replace it or change it too much, because it becomes one of those favorites, one of those classics that everybody looks forward to, you know, coming back to Not So Scary year after year to see it. But eventually, I hope that they do make some modifications to it. You know, if Universal can completely reinvent Halloween Horror Nights every year, and Busch Gardens can sort of switch up, you know, a rotating group of haunted houses, I don't see why Disney couldn't sort of rotate floats in and out of the Boo to You parade. Keep the same essence, you know, maybe even keep the same music, but pick a parade float, pick a few characters, take them out, swap them out with new ones. You know, the changes over the years have been very small and very rare in this parade. I personally would like to see more of it. But speaking of changes, though, and this is getting close to the end of sort of the Not So Scary what's new this year, is the Villains Mix and Mingle, which is up the stage show, very brief, maybe 7 or 8 minutes long, up on the Cinderella Castle stage. And this is a great chance for a whole lot of Disney villains to come out, including one of my favorites, Dr. Facilier, which was added a year or two ago, which I was very excited about. He has a great number in here. But they all come out and they do, you know, song and dance routine, and then they come out down from the castle and they meet and greet, or mix and mingle, with all of the guests. Now, this is cool. This year, it wasn't even going on for the first couple of weeks of Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, but just a couple of days ago, I guess it wasn't ready at the beginning, Disney debuted kind of a new version, or an enhanced version of this Villains Mix and Mingle show that I was surprised by. I didn't even realize they were doing this. They hadn't made any announcements. It just kind of happened. And literally, as I was walking into the park, I saw it in the distance, and they were using the Cinderella Castle projections that's been in the, you know, Magic Memories and You and Celebrate the Magic shows, but they were doing it in a grand fashion as a backdrop behind this Villains Mix and Mingle. And I was very, very surprised and very impressed with what was going on. For every character that came out and every moment in the show, the castle was interacting and had extra visuals that were really themed to it. And the Dr. Facilier portion of it was fantastic. I mean, I'm a big fan of that character to begin with, and to see even more enhancements for his area of this, his scene in this stage show was phenomenal. And I actually want to share that right now. Of course, those of you who are just listening to the audio version of this show, it's just going to sound like the same version of the show that's been there for a while. But for those of you watching the video version, you will enjoy this clip from the Villains Mix and Mingle show. And then, of course, I posted the whole show with all of the castle projections over on our YouTube channel, so you can check it out there. But I wanted to share just a little bit here in the middle of the show for you to enjoy. Of course, even the audio is fun because it is Dr. Facilier singing a song, and he is just fantastic. So let's head over to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party for a little bit of fun from the Villains Mix and Mingle.
I look deep into your heart and soul, make your wildest dreams come true. I got voodoo, I got things I ain't tried. And I got friends on the other side.
He's got friends on the other side.
The cards will tell the past, the present, and the future as well. The cards, just take 3. Take trip into your future with me. Ha 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 ha! Are you ready? Are you ready? Transformation Central. Reformation Central. Transmogrification Central. Can you feel it? You're changing, all right. I hope you're satisfied. But if you ain't, don't blame me. You can blame my friends on the other
And there you have it, just a clip from Villains Mix and Mingle. Definitely go check out the whole video on our YouTube channel to see the exciting new projections. I'm really surprised Disney has not publicized this in any way that I have seen. It's a great new addition to Not So Scary. In fact, one of my favorite parts of the event now is seeing this version of the Villains Mix and Mingle show, which is already, a fun, cute little show to begin with. But this just made it so much better, and I hope this is just the beginning of Disney using the castle projections in fun and creative ways like this in the future, more than just sort of like stand there and watch the castle and nothing else is going on. Because people tend to, in the Celebrate the Magic show, you're standing on Main Street, and those who don't really know what it is, they're expecting a full fireworks show. They're expecting wishes, and then the castle kind of does these things and dances around and this and that, and then there's a little bitty fireworks at the end. And so I hear so many people in the crowd go, wait, is that it? Is that the whole, what was that? And then the, wishes starts up and everybody's happy again. But this is a great way to sort of integrate the live performances with the projections in the background, and I would love to see the projections work in conjunction with a full fireworks show. I have to imagine that is in development somehow, some way, somewhere. So definitely, do not miss Villains and Mix and Mingle this year if you're headed out to Not So Scary. And of course, finally, circling back around to what I initially talked about here, Jack and Sally from The Nightmare Before Christmas. Very exciting to see them in the Magic Kingdom. This is the first time they've made their theme park appearance out here at Walt Disney World. Of course, they've been meeting outside Haunted Mansion Holiday for a few years now out of Disneyland, but to see them out here to get a little bit of Nightmare Before Christmas love in Florida is a wonderful thing. Since we don't have Haunted Mansion Holiday, we really don't have much a Nightmare at all. In the Hallowishes show, there was a little bit of an Oogie Boogie sequence, which is nice. And of course, Oogie Boogie was at the Unleash the Villains event, the Friday the 13th event for limited time magic recently. But now, during Not So Scary, Jack and Sally are around, and I certainly hope that they'll be sticking around even more, maybe even to the Christmas season, since it is Nightmare Before Christmas. It really transcends both holidays, and I hope, given their popularity, I have to imagine that they are going to continue to be available after the Not So Scary parties end, and maybe into the very Merry Christmas party, perhaps tweaking their background a little bit to see sort of the Christmas side of things. Maybe they'll give Jack Skellington his Sandy Claus makeover. Wouldn't that be fun? But I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm just hoping, wishful thinking here, but it is cool to see them. Definitely one of the highlights of this year. So Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, it is, as I said, more of the same this year, but with some nice additions and tweaks to keep it a little bit fresh. And I wish there was more of kind of an overhaul to the event, but little by little things are changing and improving, and it's got to be good enough for me for now. So that's continuing on select nights throughout the rest of Halloween season.
Here it comes. An Inside the Magic Blu-ray review.
So I want to talk a little bit about a recent Blu-ray disc that was released. Now, I've been doing Blu-ray reviews mostly over on InsideTheMagic.net. recently, but for the case in this particular recent release, I wanted to give it the time to talk about it here on the show because it is a particularly interesting release, and with that, I should probably, not play this sort of jazzy music in the background, maybe go for something a little bit more recognizable. Let's see if you recognize this song. Indeed. The Little Mermaid's what I am talking about here. And The Little Mermaid is not only now on Blu-ray, but more importantly, what I really wanted to focus on talking about here, the reason I wanted to include it on the show and not just, send you over to the website to read my write-up, is because of Little Mermaid in 3D. This is something that was supposed to be in theaters, but instead it did not go to theaters, although it's got a limited run at El Capitan and a few other select theaters, I believe. But it was supposed to really be released wide after, The Lion King in 3D, this conversion from the old 2D film moved on and did very well. After that, other 3D conversions didn't do so well. Monsters, Inc. Came and went. Wasn't terribly well received, and I think Disney ultimately realized that these 2D to 3D conversions of old films didn't all fly in the theaters, but they still had a market at home, and of course they went through the process of doing this 3D conversion, so they wanted to make it available to those who were interested. So I did sit down and checked out The Little Mermaid in 3D on Blu-ray at home, and it's very interesting. This movie is nearly 25 years old. It looks good. It doesn't look great. It doesn't look as great as my memory, thinks it does. Aladdin looks better. Certainly Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, they look much better. They're, a few years later. The Little Mermaid is showing its age. The lines aren't as crisp, the animation isn't as great, but this new digital restoration really does look good. It's in HD, of course, in Blu-ray, but the 3D, again, is what I wanted to focus here, and it is very, very well done. It's possible to convert 2D to 3D by just sort of taking the layers of 2D animation and, cutting them out and making these sort of flat layers in front of each other, kind of like Viewmaster style. That doesn't happen in this. There's actual, it seems like, depth. It's this bizarre mix of 2D visuals, but actual 3D as well. So you get sort of this continuous 3D look throughout the frames that you don't feel like it's just chopping these flat layers ahead of each other. It's sort of kind of one of these magical conversion things that I don't completely understand in my brain, but it works. It's done very well. And it actually does add to the film. You kind of get used to it. You don't, it's not one of those like 3D, Honey, I Shrunk the Audience things pop out you and, squirt you and whatever. Unless you have somebody standing off to the side with a squirt gun while you're watching it. But it's interesting. It's a good new way to enjoy this classic movie. The Little Mermaid's one of my favorite Disney films of all time. It's one that I grew up with. It's the songs are embedded in my head forever. And of course, hearing just them for years and years and years, watching these classic movie musical moments now in 3D just adds that extra twist. And I'm trying to avoid the silly puns like adds depth because it's The Little Mermaid and they're underwater and all of that. But it's, the colors pop very well. The animation's very smooth, and unfortunately, wearing 3D glasses, it does dim that a little bit because that's just the nature of the 3D glasses. But overall, it looks very, very good. Now, to talk a little bit more about the Blu-ray itself here, beyond the 3D, there are some great bonus features, new bonus features on here, including a look into Disney animation, sort of a little bit of history and a little bit of today's young animators and what goes on behind the scenes at Disney Animation. It's fun there to watch that. A little bit odd when Oscar-winning Paperman director John Cars is on there, which is great that he's in there, except for the fact that he's not with Disney anymore because he left. But he's still on the Blu-ray, so there you go. There's a little snippet of Jodie Benson, voice of Ariel, visiting New Fantasyland in her ride, and of course it's all very PR and happy, and she loves everything, and I don't doubt that she does, but it's maybe a little too happy, but it's still fun. Disney Intermission is a great feature on here. You can hit pause and all kinds of fun Little Mermaid moments happen. And of course, there's plenty from John Musker and Ron Clements on here, the co-writers and co-directors of the film. So it's, it's always great to have them in there. There are some downsides to this release. There's singer, if you want to call her that, Carly Rae Jepsen, the Call Me Maybe girl, she does a version of Part of Your World in some kind of music video-like thing. Not good. I would steer clear of that one. And there's some quirks. People have noticed that 2 of the shots during the actual Part of Your World sequence in the film, 2 of the shots have been mixed up. When they went through the process of converting it to Blu-ray, apparently they messed up, and Disney has admitted it. They flip-flopped 2 of the shots. As such, a sort of a wide-ish shot of Ariel, if you look real close, her mouth doesn't match up with her words. It's very brief. They're maybe 2-second shots each. Not the end of the world, but it's just kind of bizarre that Disney would take this film and, accidentally rearrange 2 of the shots. But, issues like that aside, it is a solid release, especially for the 3D. I mean, that's really the draw here, and that's why I wanted to mention it here. It is a fun new take on the movie that I think anyone's a fan of Little Mermaid. If you have 3D capabilities at home, you will enjoy it. And of course, it's available now wherever Blu-rays are sold. And now next up, I've got another fun sort of Disney segment here, not from me. However, I've been doing a lot of talking, as I do week after week here, but I wanted to give myself a rest here and actually turn the attention over to a special event that took place recently. It's actually an annual event over in Marceline, Missouri. Those of you who know Disney's history will recognize that city with Walt Disney's own history there, and the city of Marceline, or town of Marceline, I'm not sure, whichever it is, has something called Toonfest, and it's not something I've ever covered here on Inside the Magic, but fortunately, this is, Walt Disney's hometown, Marceline. Fortunately, Jeremy sent in a great report for Toonfest that happened just a couple of weekends ago. So now I do want to turn your attention over to Jeremy for a quick summary of what Toonfest was all about this year.
Hello, Inside the Magic. This is Jeremy from Kansas City, and I am calling today from Toonfest in Marceline, Missouri, standing actually right now under Walt's own dreaming tree. You can definitely make a case that the magic of Disney relies, or lives in the parks. But, if on those times that you can't afford to go to the park like me, or you have any other reason you can't make it to the park, coming out here to Marceline, Missouri, right here in middle America, is a wonderful way to still capture some Disney magic, especially on the 3rd Saturday in September when they have Toonfest right here. It's the biggest little event you'll ever want to see in one of the cutest small towns ever. It begins with, there's some princess makeovers and I think they might do some pirate makeovers because I see a lot of little boy pirates too. But they have a parade now at 10 o'clock that I always show up in time for. And during this parade, you'll see, this is where pirates, princess, and farm animals meet. And they have the neatest little tiny school marching band because it's a very small town here still. It's like coming to Mayberry, and it comes right down the original Main Street, USA. So this wonderful parade where you have marching bands, small ones, little girls dressed as princesses riding on a float, little boys dressed as pirates riding down in a float, a few other, sort of costume Disney characters. There was a guy who they called Captain Jack, but this old fellow looked nothing like Jack Sparrow. But along with this parade, you also will have some cartoonists from around the United States and, well, even Canada this week, or this year. One of these artists, I did visit his symposium. All of the artists will give a symposium in a nice little community center where you can see all the artwork. But one of them, his name was Steven Silver. Now, Steven Silver worked for Disney for about 4 or 5 years, he said. And during that time, one of the cartoons he designed he was a character designer. He actually designed all the characters for Kim Possible. And even Kim Possible was based slightly on his wife, although the Disney company told him she needed to be a bit more athletic, and they kind of fine-tuned his designs. But he showed some of his original sketches. It was fantastic to see. There's also a lot of other events. There's some crafts you can go see. One of my favorite things to do while I'm here is I go and visit an antique store, and I usually find some great old vinyl records of old Disney soundtracks. This time I picked up Mickey and the Beanstalk, a complete original cast recording of the songs and also the story. Some more fun, though, you can have just being here in Marceline. You can feel the history of it, and I love going to the hometown museum that's here. You can learn all kinds of stuff about, growing up here in Marceline for the first, few years. before they moved to Kansas City. All the times Walt came back here, he always loved to visit. They've got a school named after him here. They had a park named after him, but I have not been able to find it in town. But there's so much wonderful things of Walt always coming back here. They premiered the Great Locomotive Chase here. It's just a wonderful town. Toonfest.net is a great website. You can keep track on coming back.
And thanks very much to Jeremy for calling in that report from Toonfest in Marceline, Missouri. You know, there's so many events related to Disney that happen all over the country that aren't necessarily at Disney's theme parks, and certainly traveling to Walt Disney's hometown is one of those things that all Disney fans should do at some point. I have not made it out there yet, but it's on that list. It's on that list of someday I will go there and take it in and appreciate all of that Disney history. So good to hear a little bit about that. So thanks again, Jeremy, for that report.
Hey, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky. Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky.
Ricky, this is amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Inside the Magic listener feedback.
So with about 15 minutes left in this week's show, it's semi-slow news week here. I would like to take the opportunity to try to catch up on all this great listener feedback, emails that have been piling up over the last few weeks as it's been so crazy busy. A good opportunity for that. Before I jump into the emails, though, I do want to say hello to Amanda, who I met over at Halloween Horror Nights recently, over at the Resident Evil house. I guess she's been a fan of the show for quite a while, so hi, Amanda. And so, moving on from there, Ryan writes in, and he's from Vancouver. Ryan writes, I just wanted wondering if you could clarify something. I've seen a few pictures going around on Facebook and Twitter of an Oz land coming to Disneyland. Is that true? Also, I know they have taken the Walt out of the beginning of the Disney movies, just leaving Disney in front of the castle. Do you think Walt should be there for saving Mr. Banks? Ryan, to answer your first question, I don't think any Oz land is coming to Disneyland anytime soon, particularly with the not-so-great success of Oz the Great and Powerful. As far as saving Mr. Banks, I think that would be an excellent opportunity for them to restore Walt Disney Pictures to Walt Disney Pictures instead of just Disney, like they have been doing so much lately. I think that would be a perfectly appropriate movie to bring it back, not only for that film, but maybe from that point forward. It would be nice to see that branding, if you will, return. Next is an email from Jesse, who writes, I just found a couple of tidbits of information that I haven't seen cross your news feed yet. First, the Disney Movie Club is selling member-exclusive videos directly on eBay. So anyone's able to purchase the DMC exclusives without joining the club. It's under an eBay store called Disney Movie Shop, and it is notated that they are owned and operated by the Walt Disney Company. Secondly, according to sources at OpenVaultDisney.com, the Mickey's Christmas Carol Blu-ray and DVD will be released on November 5th and will include the new animated short called Yodelberg. No details on what that is about, but I'm hoping with the Berg there might be a DuckTales tie-in. The other shorts included or listed are The Hockey Champ, Pluto's Christmas Tree, The Art of Skiing, and Cornship. So Jesse, thanks for those notes. I doubt anything DuckTales related is showing up on the Mickey's Christmas Carol Blu-ray, but I'm interested to see what Yodelberg is all about. Scott writes in and says, howdy. Love the show and the time and effort you put in. This is my go-to source for news and unique features on the world. I wanted to ask if normal folks, not a Jonas or a Mariah Carey, can win, get picked, or otherwise stay in the Cinderella Castle Suite at Walt Disney World. Any idea how it currently works? Well, Scott, of course, the Cinderella Castle Suite dates back to the year of a million dreams, where you could win a night in that suite, and then they offered some tours after that, and currently there really is no way to sort of get in there. I mean, like you said, celebrities, of course, find their way in, even though Disney says you can't buy your way in. I'm sure you can with enough money. The average folks, unfortunately, there really is no in there. There are occasional sweepstakes, occasional contests, I've heard from various sponsors to have stays in the Cinderella Castle Suite, but nothing ongoing now that I know of, and nothing on a regular basis, unfortunately. Next, an email from Isaac, who writes, I'm in Animal Kingdom and have a report about FastPass Plus. One of the higher-ups was answering a question about it to a family while I was walking by and told them the program is on schedule to roll out in October officially. Well, Isaac, it is on schedule, certainly moving along, and this email, I should mention, is from quite a while ago, as are many of these, but as far as FastPass Plus goes and My Magic Plus and all of that, the rollout of that is going steady. It is going strong. Moving through the various resorts around Walt Disney World, more and more of the hotel guests are being able to arrive and pick their, get their magic bands and pick their fast passes online and go through the My Disney experience and all of that. No time frame has been given for annual pass holders quite yet, but for those who are staying in the resorts, it seems like by December, all of the resorts of Walt Disney World will be covered and able to use FastPass Plus and My Magic Plus and all of that. And then I would assume shortly thereafter, hopefully, annual pass holders will get to take part in the program, and then the official rollout may happen perhaps in December. It is very possible that it'll be just in time for that Christmas season. I know Disney has said they wanted to roll it out in this quarter of the year, so here we are. Could be any time within the next couple of months officially. Next is an email where I don't have the person's name who wrote the email, so whoever you are, sorry, maybe you'll recognize your note. But this person writes, I love the podcast, been watching for around 4 weeks. I have a question, if you don't mind me asking. The question is, how often do you visit the parks, and which do you visit most? Good question. I visit as often as I want or need to. That's the advantage of being local. Sometimes I won't go for 3 weeks, and other times I'll go 3 times in a day. It just depends on what's going on and what I'm interested in. Of course, right now, Halloween time, I'm hopping over to Universal for Halloween Horror Nights every couple of days. I just went on Thursday and then again on Sunday for that, and prior to that, I had already gone like 3 or 4 times. So I've been frequenting that more often, but I was also at the Magic Kingdom for Not So Scary, and of course out at Busch Gardens. So lately it's been a couple of times a week. But during the downtimes, or during the summer actually, during the busier times, I tend to go a lot less. I went the whole summer with almost not going to the parks at all because it's hot and it's crowded and it's kind of miserable. So there's no set schedule, no set anything. When you're living near the parks, it's kind of a, hey, I want to go, or hey, I don't. Next is an email from Junior, I believe, from Arizona, who writes, what if Disney made a Tangled themed area in Fantasy Fair using the courtyard in the scene where Rapunzel danced with many of the town's citizens? Seems like a good replacement that fits in with Fantasy Fair and could bring the same vibe as swing dancing once did. Well, I don't think anybody, now that swing dancing is back, I don't think anybody wants it to go away again, but that does sound interesting. There is dancing, certainly, in the celebratory parts of Tangled, and I could see them sort of working that into the show there. Of course, there is the Tangled show that goes on in that Royal Theater in Fantasy Fair. Very funny show. I really enjoyed that, and so that should not be missed. But to enhance that even further beyond the meet and greets with a bit of interactive scene from the movie could be fun as well. Here's an email that dates back quite a few months, though it is now appropriate for this time of the year. Blake writes, I really enjoyed your interview with Pat Carroll. Excellent job. Her reading of Welcome, Foolish Mortals was awesome, and your idea of having other villains doing the speech is great. I would like to see the opening speech be really scary. Something like asking Jim Cummings to use his Winnie the Pooh voice creeps me out just thinking about it. Jiminy Cricket could do the welcome back voice on the way out. It would be a hoot. Blake, great suggestions there. Really could be fun to sort of reach out and get the most innocent, tiny little voices to do, the ominous ghost host from the Haunted Mansion, or Rod Serling's intro for the Tower of Terror, things like that. Sort of that split, that juxtaposition, if you will, of the seemingly innocent voices doing such creepy roles. Could be a lot of fun. Keith writes in and says, do you know how long it takes for a ride to be made? What is the timeline from the initial idea to the opening ceremony? I'm just wondering how long it takes for rides like Splash Mountain or Maelstrom to be completed. Keith, it varies tremendously. It is definitely not set by any means. It certainly varies from theme park company to theme park company as well. Disney, lately, maybe to a fault, has been taking a lot of time to create attractions. Let's take an example of the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train over at New Fantasyland. We first heard about that, 2 years ago? Yeah, I guess it was the 2011 D23 Expo where they updated their New Fantasyland plans to include the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, and at that point it had already been in development for quite some time. So maybe add another year to that. We're talking maybe 3 to 4 years, and it's not done quite yet. It's still got a few months away. It's opening in spring of next year, so I'd say the 3 to 4 year time frame for that attraction is, it's a long time for that one. Not everything, of course, takes that long. Some are cranked out a lot faster. Universal, of course, is cranking out attractions very, very quickly. They're designing them and building them and working 24 hours, 7 days a week to get them up. Disney is perhaps a little bit more meticulous, or just perhaps not in any rush. I don't know. But the point is the time varies depending on if it's a major, big e-ticket attraction or just, something small to go stick in a corner somewhere where there's nothing going on. So there really is no firm answer to that question. Speaking of Universal, here's a good email related to that. Bradley writes in and says, I just want to say I love your show. It's one of my favorite podcast shows to listen to every week, and I look forward to hearing all the latest in Disney news each week. I am listening to the old episodes as well as the new ones, and I wanted to tell you that I heard you on an episode of Mugglecast, which is one of my favorite podcasts to listen to as well. The episode was entitled Mugglecast 203, live from Infinitus 2010 at the Wizarding World, and I wanted to let you know that it made my day to hear your voice on that episode. Thank you for continuing to make such a great podcast and keep up the great work. And here's where I should have read this email about 2 weeks ago, because Bradley says, P.S. My birthday is coming up on September 27th, and Bradley, sorry, happy belated birthday by a couple of weeks. That's what happens when I get wrapped up too much in Halloween fun. I don't get as much time to do listener feedback, and I miss a great email like yours. So hopefully your birthday was wonderful, and I'm glad you enjoyed that Wizarding World episode, of course, because Wizarding World Phase 2 coming up next year. I mentioned Seven Dwarfs Mine Trains being built at Walt Disney World. Well, meanwhile, Universal Studios is working on the next area for the Wizarding World, the Diagon Alley area. It's definitely coming together very nicely. Everything's shaping up. In fact, at Halloween Horror Nights, if you peek off to the side at just the right place, you can actually see the Hogwarts Express train parked backstage, just awaiting its time on the track to be tested and ultimately revealed in a few months. So really looking forward to seeing all of that, and maybe I'll team up with the Harry Potter folks, the fan community there, to talk even more Potter when that time rolls around. Next email is from Eric, who writes, I have 2 questions about animated films of Disney and Pixar. Number 1, what would you think if Disney or Pixar could consider to do such things as animated films based on comic strips someday? And number 2, I learned there's Pixar's upcoming movie entitled The Good Dinosaur. What is that going to be about? Well, this is another example of an older email. Of course, I'll go for that second question first. The Good Dinosaur, we've learned a lot more about that recently at the D23 Expo. They showed off a lot, but some of that may be changing because the director is no longer on that project. They've bumped back the movie by a year or so. So I think the response to The Good Dinosaur was not tremendously positive, and I think they realized that even in advance that film was not quite maybe on the right track. So I have a feeling what we've seen so far of that may not be exactly what ends up being that movie. As far as basing films on comic strips, I think Marvel is kind of, I know comic strips and comic books are different, but Marvel's definitely in that world, and they've got the Big Hero 6 movie that Disney is working on. It's going to be a CG animated film coming down the line. It actually looks really, really good, even though I had no idea what Big Hero 6 was, and I think that was kind of the point. It was from the world of Marvel, but not really the instantly recognizable characters like, Iron Man and all of that. So I'm looking forward to that. And comic strips specifically, I don't know. I'm a big fan of something like, Garfield. I've been reading Garfield comics for years and years and years, but, everybody knows how those movies turned out. Not so great. Well, the animated movies, the smaller movies, I actually kind of like. They're fun. They're for kids, but they're fun. The Bill Murray voiced live action films, no, not so much. So comic strips, definitely one of those things you got to be careful of. I can't think of any off the top of my head that I would love to see Disney venture into. Let's do just a couple of more emails here and wrap it up. John writes in. Looks like another FastPass Plus related email. John writes, my wife and I will get to spend a few days in the parks after getting off the fantasy, and I was curious as to how FastPass Plus works. Is there a way to be chosen or to volunteer as a test subject? As a side note, any tips about things we are sure not to miss aboard the fantasy would be appreciated. Now, unfortunately, I think I'm a couple of months late to specifically respond to John in this email. I apologize for that. But, these sort of questions can help anybody who's partaking in the same things. As far as getting involved with FastPass Plus before the official rollout, if you're staying at one of a select group of Walt Disney World hotels, and as I've said, that is growing rapidly out here, most of the hotels, or many of them, are included already, you'll find out in part of your reservation that you'll be able to go online, go into My Disney Experience, link your reservation to your account on there, and from there you can pick all of your FastPass Plus offerings and, pick your different rides and reservations and all of that on different days. So just make sure when you're making your booking, see if you can even ask. You can say, can I be part of it? And they'll let you know either yes or no. As far as the fantasy, I could go on and on about all the great things that are on the Disney Fantasy cruise ship, but what comes to mind, of course, immediately the Aqueduct comes to mind, but you can't miss that. That's not exactly a hidden thing on the ship. But I would say, especially for some adults traveling there, definitely explore the adult area. You think maybe it's just nightclubs and that kind of thing, but there's actually some nice seating areas, a little live jazz band, nice lounges to sit around, very comfortable areas on the ship. And if you go late at night, there's some food that you can grab there, and just places to sort of wind down and relax there. It's easy to kind of shrug that off if you're not into the dance club vibe, thinking that that's what the adult area is all about. But it's not. It's more than that. It's a lot of different types of areas in there with great themes to them that are definitely worth exploring. And even the dance club's kind of fun to go into, even if you're not going to dance. Spend a few minutes in there and just kind of explore, the Tube look, the London Underground, and all of that. So that's just what comes to mind immediately. Also, don't miss, Jack Sparrow. Of course, he'll be on there for Pirate Night, and you can go meet and greet with him, and it's easier to get your photo with him there, much easier to get your photo with really any of the characters on the ship than it is to do so on land in the parks. You don't have to wait nearly the lines that you do on land. So, hopefully that answers your question, even if it's a couple of months late. And that'll do it for listener feedback this week. So here we are at the end of show 444, and you might be thinking, well, let's see, we've heard about Halloween Horror Nights, we've heard about Halloween, we've heard about Mickey's Not So Scary. I guess that's about it for Halloween. No, definitely not, because I'm heading out to California in just a few days. I'm going to be hitting, I honestly don't even know the count, maybe 6, 7, 8 different Halloween events over the course of a few days. I'm just cramming it into one trip. Certainly going to Disney and check out Haunted Mansion Holiday, Ghost Galaxy, etc., there. But also plenty of other events from theme parks and even beyond outside of theme parks. And I'm not going to talk about all of that here on the show, but definitely stay tuned to InsideTheMagic.net and the YouTube channel and all of that to see even more Halloween fun. I'm really looking forward to experiencing a lot of haunted attractions, if you will, that I have never done before. Some brand new this year, some that are coming back that I've been wanting to do for a few years, and then some I have done in the past, but this year's version of it as well. So for those of you who are big into the Halloween thing like I am, definitely stay tuned here to this show, but also over on the website to see much more from all of that. For those of you who are not as big into Halloween, yes, I've heard you. I understand. It is several weeks that I talk about it for a long time here, and hopefully this week's show, kind of a more traditional episode of Inside the Magic, talking nothing but Disney for the most part. Little bits of Universal and Busch Gardens here and there, but for the most part, it was a Disney show through and through, and not just Halloween, but talking Blu-ray and Marceline, Missouri, and all of that good stuff. So kind of a traditional episode. But don't worry, there's also more Inside the Magic branded Halloween fun coming up this month. Some things from the past may be returning, so you can look forward to that as well. I do want to thank Magical Travel for sponsoring this week's episode of Inside the Magic. You can find out more about their services by visiting magicaltravel.com. Also, don't forget to search for the Capturing Magic iTunes app, or rather, apps in the iTunes store, to help manage those magical moments and picture-taking opportunities in the parks at Disneyland and Walt Disney World when you are around. And, of course, between episodes of this show, be sure to visit InsideTheMagic.net. It is your source for Disney and theme park news in general and all kinds of other fun stuff and Halloween and all that. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. And thanks for all of you for listening and for watching each and every week. And have a magical week. Goodbye.